wearing one of her black full-sleeved tops and brown maxi skirts, a black ribbon choking around her neck, brown lipstick on her mouth, black liner outlining her odd violet eyes, hair in a fishtail braid, silver danglers hanging from her ears, silver ring piercing her nose, and a multi-crystal bracelet on her left wrist she never took off except to recharge, Corvina felt most like herself.
Let's talk about Gothikana. Hello everyone, my name is Lola. Welcome to my corner. Today we are going to be talking about Gothikana, which is a book that a lot of people begged me to stop reading, and then a bunch of other people told me that I should continue reading it because like they were expectating on a gladiator fight and they really wanted me to just keep going to give them like all the nasty details about it. And I know not everyone is super like brave enough to read it, because if I'm being honest, this book has the type of mixed opinions that makes an either amazing or horrible book, which was why I was drawn to it. The movie Wuthering Heights is coming on, and I'm not gonna say anything about it of what is my opinion on it. And then recently we had Frankenstein, and like sort of gothic literature movie adaptations have been in the high. So as I was discussing this with one of my best friends is like super into gothic literature in general. She loves Frankenstein. She did her thesis on Frankenstein. She's super knowledgeable about it. We were talking about how sometimes those film adaptations don't really get it, and then I was thinking, well, what if I read Gothikana, because maybe it is a very nice modern day take on gothic horror. And I knew that either people were completely obsessed with it, saying that it was the greatest love story ever written, or think it is absolutely horrible. And this type of polarizing opinion always, I don't know, I'm always so curious about reading those very polarizing books. So I'm really excited to talk about what are my opinions on this. Although I feel like a lot of people have already talked about it because the book is old. The book is from 2021. A lot of people have already given their take on it. I feel like I can bring something to the table in regards to this book, because I feel like it is neither as bad or as good people say it is. I think mostly it's unpolished. So let's get right into the book action. I know that talking about the pretextual elements is kind of boring, but I need you guys to bear with me on this one, because the names of things have a very deep meaning on this book specifically. I mean, not a deep meaning. They have a meaning. They definitely have a meaning. So first of all, I hate the title. I just needed to get that out there. The title is horrible. What does Gothikana even mean? I know it's supposed to reminisce about something gothic, but it's very odd. And it sounds something in a made-up language. It sounds something like I can feel something roughly maybe Latin about it, but I don't really understand it. I don't think it's a nice title, because I feel like if you have a made-up word in your title, I would like it to be, referencing something, but there's no reference at all to this in the whole book. But we do have a bunch of other made-up words. So as I was looking into the meaning of Gothikana, I stumbled upon the Dark Academicals Book Club podcast, and they did a really nice analysis on the naming, like it's very cheeky analysis on the naming. So I want to read it to you guys because I think it's very amazing. So the name Corvina is pretty much very basic, very on the nose. It just means little crow, and that's it, and I could talk hours and hours and hours about how many authors these days make the nicknames of the female main characters to be little birds in general, or little tiny insects. Yes, Kingfisher, I'm talking about you. You should be ashamed. It's just, why does the main character always has to be tiny and then a little prey animal, you know? When am I gonna read a book where they call the main character, like, I don't know, little tiger? You know what? That's worse. Corvina's name means little crow, and her boyfriend nicknames her Little Raven. So there's something so precious about it. There is a whole like crow versus raven situation where Corvina talks about it, that she's like, oh no, my name means crow, I'm not raven, and back and forth. And I feel like this could have been a better joke at the book. I feel like this could have been a little more done, because it is funny. I mean, your name is literally crow or raven. I don't know. I'm not super knowledge on the whole crow versus, not because I don't see the difference between crows and ravens, but because most Latin languages don't have, like, even if they do have a specific word for raven, and mostly it's very normal to call them all of them crows. So it's a hard distinction, you know, especially because like I've never seen a crow in my life. Like I have this goth girl apparatus, but I've never seen a crow in my life. I think I would be scared. They look scary. I mean, I know they are cute in their hearts, but their appearance is very scary. Okay, moving on, we have the name of the college she goes to, the school, and this school is called Verranmore, which is about the simplest anagram you could have to Nevermore, the famous Edgar Allan Poe's quote. And this is the thing, we have Nevermore for the school name. We have a girl whose name is Corvina, which means crow, which this is the thing that I feel like it's that what I hate the most. She's getting references from the same poem. I get it. The Raven poem is iconic. I'm an English lit student. I've read that poem 100 million times. I know, but Poe has a nice catalog of things you could have used for your book references. Why did you choose specifically to only have one poem? And then, as I learned from the girls from the Dark Academicals book club podcast, Sarah said that like Clem, which is Corvina's last name, is the last name of Poe's wife, and apparently Poe's wife has like not the nicest story overall, and they did have an age gap. So Sarah said, I wonder if Corvina being named Clan is a nod to the fact that they have an age gap relationship, which is very brutal and very cheeky. But yeah, I think it's just too Edgar Allan Poe. And I feel like this is the thing, the way that it is done, like the whole Corvina naming situation, I feel like it's similar, and I'm gonna take you guys on a loop here, but I need you to come with me. I feel like it is worse than when we have I think it's the Descendants movie on Disney, and they have Maleficent's daughter to be called Mao, like just Mao, and then the evil queen's daughter is called Ibbie, which, and I mean, to be honest, I feel like Mao and Ibbie are more iconic than Corvina, and to me Corvina sounds like there's like a Descendants knockoff, and they are doing like the children of all the classic poems. And then we have Charles Dickens' sons, and his name is Dick, you know, and I don't know, Oliver Twist teamed, and then we have Corvina be the daughter of Edgar Allan Poe. Like, I feel like this is very odd, but this is what I feel. This is the vibe that I got. It feels cartoonish, like very, very, very cartoonish. And I don't think this is like the super amazing vibe that she thought she was going for. And then the other naming fiasco that we have is Vad. So Vad is a naming mishmash. Like, first of all, I understand that the name Vad exists. I am aware that there are people that are called VAD, and if you are called VAD, I have nothing against you. VAD is actually a very cool name. The problem that I have with VAD is because for Corvina and for the school and for a lot of things, we have very obvious book references, but then when it comes to VAD, she does something that's a little odd, because VAD is a character that is very clearly made to be Dracula, okay? He lives on a tower, she thinks he's evil, even she reads Dracula because his class needs her to read Dracula, and she dreams that he's like tasting her blood. So the whole thing of the book is that Vad is supposed to be Dracula. Okay, this is not a super, I feel like that's not the most obvious reference, it's not the most subtle one, but it's not the most obvious reference in this book. And then with Vad, like, she could have done something really cool, because Dracula is inspired on Vlad the Impaler. So if his name was Vlad, that would have been a clue to what his character is supposed to represent. But then we have Vad, which makes us unsure if she actually meant to make a Dracula reference or not. And then he's also named Deverell. This is the podcast will get me in on that. Apparently Deverell is also a reference to a painter that is like a famous painter around that time, but I don't feel like Deverell really makes a nod to that specific painter that much, because Vad is a musician, not a painter. And the whole thing, I feel like it's because Deverell is, if you read it really fast, it sounds like devil, so I feel like that's more because his nickname is Varen Moore's Devil, like I think also the White Devil, because he has like a white hair streak. So I feel like Vad's references were a little lost, while Corvina were too obvious. So I'm about the worst person ever to give the rant that I'm about to give, because as I am indeed an English lit major, my thesis was in something that's about the polar opposite you can get from Gothic literature. And if you guys really want to know, it was feminine literature in the late Edwardian and beginning of the Victorian period, with specific focus on Virginia Woolf. So I'm kind of far away from all of that, but to be fair, the authors I studied read these authors, so we have a connection, and I have read a bunch of Gothic literature. So, and as I said, my best friend also did her thesis on Gothic literature, and in the same way that, like, you know, when someone has a dad that's a doctor and they said, oh, I know what to do in this situation because my dad's a doctor. So my best friend is not only into Gothic literature, but she is an actual goth. So I feel like I have what it takes to get this rant, because I need to avenge her for this specific crime that was this book. So goth and Gothic are two different things, and I feel like that's also one of the reasons that I'm not particularly fond of the Gothikana name, because it's not really clear if she means goth or if she means Gothic. I feel like she wants to mean Gothic, but it's a stretch, girl. It's a stretch that this book is Gothic, and I'm gonna talk about it. So first, I just want to bring like a quick difference between what is goth and what is Gothic. So the Gothic literature subgenre is a literary genre that's from the 18th century, and it has amazing writers. Like, it has Mary Shelley, it has the Bronte sisters, it has Charles Dickens. That's just talking about the ones that I've personally read. There's a bunch and bunch of them, and it is a very specific, dearly beloved literary genre. It is, the name itself is inspired on Gothic architecture. It has so many roots, it has so many like specific things that make it so beloved even to this day. You know, all the themes, all the ambience, everything about it is so gorgeous, and it is a deeply studied, beloved literature genre. But then the goth subgenre in culture is also a very beloved and iconic movement, that it takes inspiration from it, but it's also a lot based in music and different cultural elements that originated in the 80s and are still like very strong to this day. So goth and gothic are not necessarily super related. I mean, they have a definite link, but they are not the same things. And this is the thing. You can be someone that dresses goth and your favorite author can be Jane Austen. Like, those things are not exclusive. You don't, if you dress all in black, that doesn't mean that you're specifically a fan of gothic literature and all of that stuff. So I feel like the problem with this book is that it is goth, but it is not gothic, because it doesn't have the subtleties and the detailing that it needed to have to be a gothic book, because gothic books are so complex. They have so much going on. It's not just about wearing black and being in a castle. So it feels like this book focused so much on the visual part of it that it forgets that it needs to have a theme going on. And I can see that the visual part is sometimes more important than other elements. Like, we have multiple descriptions of Corvina's outfits down to the lipstick color, which is why I was able to recreate her outfit today. Like, we know if she's wearing a fishtail braid, we know if she's wearing a regular braid, and we know if her hair is loose. And I'm not making a big deal out of it. You can't describe your characters into details, but I feel like her description, I feel like Runix, I'm assuming Runix is a woman, I'm not 100% sure, so let me go back to they. I'm assuming they think that just if you give the visuals, you know, if you give the overall vibe, we are going to fill in the blanks. But what it feels like is that she spends so much time talking about herself. Oh, I'm wearing this, I'm wearing that, and doesn't focus on other elements. Like, for example, sometimes the descriptions of the visuals of the castle, which were something that I was really interested in, were just described as breathtaking. Like, oh, the castle was gorgeous, or oh, the castle was spooky. And I thought that we could have that detailing into other parts of the book, but it feels like it's more focused on creating a description of the main characters. Like, we also know what Vad is wearing most of the time. We know if his shirt is inside his trousers or not, but I can't even remember the color of the castle's walls, if I'm being honest. And in that note, there is something that I've heard, that I read from the podcast that I was mentioning in this section of the video, and I wanted to read to you guys. It doesn't necessarily talk about Gothic, it talks about dark academia, but I feel like it's really, really interesting, and I feel like it ties everything together. So I'm going to read, this is a blog post, an article that they have, and I'm going to link it down below because I feel like it's super interesting. And I actually really like the podcast in general. They had some amazing points, so let's talk about it. Over the past few years, dark academia has become one of publishing's favorite labels. A university setting, dark academia. A morally questionable professor, dark academia. A gothic romance with a library scene, dark academia. Somewhere along the way, the term has drifted a little from what it once meant. What began as a fairly specific literary throughline has increasingly become a marketing tag, applied to almost anything with a campus, a grudge, and or a suspicious Latin quotation carved into a desk. And I feel like that can easily apply to one of the main problems that I had in Gothikana, was that it felt like the visuals were more important than anything else. And I wanted to have the vibe too. I wanted that, like, I wanted to have more elements, because I feel like just having Runix tell me that, oh, the character was dressed spooky. I want to know. I don't want visual. I want vibes. I want to know, like, if she had an uneasy feeling, if like she felt cold in her spine. Like, I wanted more, and I just had the visual. So that's why I think this book is if I wanted to say which one of those it's more related to, I don't feel like it's specifically super related to either of them besides the general vibes, is that I think it is more related to the goth subgenre than it is related to actual gothic literature. So now I wanted to talk about the plot of this book a little bit, and this is a very hard endeavor to go to because the plot of this book is very, very, very confusing. And I actually went back and forth and I was like, should I do it? Should I talk about the plot of this book? Should I just like let it go? But I decided that I wanted to talk about the plot, and I'm gonna make a valiant effort into trying to make it so that you guys can understand it, because I'm not sure if for some reason I got my hands into an old copy of this book, but there were many grammar mistakes. There were no commas in most of the things. Like, it felt very unpolished and it was hard to understand. And then when I actually read the final note that Runix said, it was actually a very cute note. I actually felt bad because Runix seems like a sweetheart, but they mentioned that like they went to a boarding school and that the boarding school inspired Veronmore, and the boarding school had this like, she went through an experience in this boarding school and she didn't know the answer to a lot of the things that happened there, so she just wrote this book to talk about it, and that's why some of the plot points have no finishing, which, okay, I will accept this, but girl, there are so many problems with the plot. There are just so many. At some point, I think they must have gotten lost with it because it's so complicated. In the beginning of the book, we meet Corvina, and she lives with her mom, and we learn like straight on that her mom is quote unquote crazy. What does that mean for us? So her mom is diagnosed with schizophrenia, and we know that she's very paranoid, and because of that she raises Corvina alone in a cottage in the woods. So Corvina grows up with the only person that she talks to basically being her mom. Her mom is schizophrenic according to her. She hears voices, she talks back to them, and she basically doesn't really talk to Corvina at all. Corvina is homeschooled, and she only learns from her mother as well, and her mother doesn't talk to her outside of lessons, so Corvina is left alone. So this is a very strange environment to raise a kid, which is, again, alone in a cottage in the woods with the only person, like the only figure they have for reference being a schizophrenic woman. Corvina doesn't talk about this negatively at all. She loves her mom. She thinks her mom did an amazing job raising her. But I feel like this raises me a few questions. Like, first of all, if she grew up in a very alienated environment and she admits that this is not the best environment to raise a child, I feel like the author could have explored more the ways in which Corvina was alienated and how that made her a strange person. Because Corvina is said to be a strange person only in the context of her home village, city. We don't know. Like, apparently the other kids think her mom is a witch and that she must be a witch as well, so they treat her differently because of that. But when we see her social interactions, she doesn't talk or sound like someone who was alienated. Like, something that also is in this book that I think it's really stupid. I hate saying things are stupid in books. This one is really stupid. Corvina has no access to technology at all. Like, the only time that she can use a computer is through the library in the city, and she uses that to look up something. So how do we know that her schizophrenic mother was sane enough to teach her things properly? How does Corvina know if her mom has taught her properly? How does she know that, like, I don't know, how does she know anything? Because the only person she has is her mom, and her mom, like, the author wants to tell us that her mom is like very, very, very unwell, like extremely unwell, to the point that when Corvina is, I think, 19, 18, her mom has a massive breakdown and needs to be institutionalized, which is a very sad thing, and it's unfortunate. And we have like her mom be a character that has mental health problems, but this isn't really developed for her. Like, Corvina does a schizophrenia test, which I feel like I need to say. Schizophrenia is not a blood test type of thing. You cannot take a blood test and be like, oh, positive for schizophrenia. It is a very complicated diagnosis that takes a lot of time. I feel like I've heard people talk that sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it's like really, really hard. Like, it's not just something you go and you taste negative for it. And specifically because Corvina also hears voices. So whenever she goes to the psychiatrist and she says, guys, I'm hearing voices, my mom is schizophrenic, maybe I am too, and they say, you know what you have? It's because you don't have a dad. So what the voice in your head is actually your subconscious talking to you and creating a paternal figure. What? But I feel like it's really odd how the fact that Corvina was raised alone with her mom is not seen as negative or explored anywhere in the book. Like, we just know that she lives alone, and we're supposed to think that's really cool that she grew up like that. And she's odd, but not like odd enough to not understand social cues, and definitely not odd enough to not know how to dress and wear makeup and all of that. So it doesn't make any sense. And then I feel like another plot line that doesn't make any sense is that Corvina likes crows, because of course she does. And the reason she likes crows is because her mother would take her to feed the crows. So let's take a look at that as it is in the book. For as long as she could remember, her mother had taken her to a clearing a few minutes away from their little cottage every morning to feed the crows. Her mama told her on one of her good days where she was speaking that they were intelligent, loyal creatures with the spirits of their ancestors, and they watched over them from the skies during the day, just like the stars did at night. Okay, so this is the thing. This doesn't take us anywhere. Corvina feeds the crows back on her mom's cottage, and then she feeds them again at Verranmore. But she's not particularly interested in the crows. Like, she says, like, oh, the crows, I love the crows, but it's not really that deep. And then this is what I think about. Crows are animals, okay? So usually, I know a lot of people that like crows and they like animals in general. Corvina doesn't seem to be interested in animals in general, to be honest. Like, she likes them and she thinks they shouldn't be treated poorly, because one of the girls, when she's young, like, I think throws a stone at the crow or the nest the crow is building, and she likes them. But I feel like this has no sustenance, this has no content. Corvina and her mom feeding the crows feels like the goth version of going to the park to feed the ducks. It's only a visual aspect because her name is Corvina, because Edgar Allan Poe is a central theme in this book, and because it looks cool to have her feed the crows. But it doesn't take us anywhere. She's not doing one of those cool crow training things that people do, where they leave like little pieces of bread and they train the crows to give them like trinkets. And also, how does Corvina keeps feeding the crows everywhere she goes, and she has not received a single trinket? I feel like that's not true, because I've never met a crow, but online people really talk about getting trinkets back. So I feel like Corvina is not actually that beloved by the crows, because if this was an actual true gothic horror book, the crows would follow her everywhere and give her gifts, and that would be cute and that would be atmospheric. But that's a missed opportunity as well. And then, as we move on with the plot, we learn that Corvina is indeed like an oddball. She is indeed weird. And one of the reasons for that is that she is also quote-unquote witchy. So Corvina reads tarot cards, and she also does candles and jewelry. the full package, and she prays to the spirits. So this is the thing. In a lot of moments in the book, when there's actually a moment where what character asks Corvina if she believes in spirits, and she says, "Oh, I believe more in energy." And I think about it, and I'm like, okay, but the Venn diagram of reading tarot cards and believing in spirits is a circle. I know a lot of 15-year-olds. I know a lot of people that do tarot. I don't think I've met anyone who read tarot cards and didn't believe in spirits. Like, I know there must be, okay? I know there must be someone, but I've never met them. And I've met a million people that read tarot cards. Like, what do you mean? You believe that like the energies of the universe are shifting you towards a conclusion so you can divinate the future? If you believe in divination, it is very unlikely that you don't believe in spiritual things. And Corvina is very skeptic and at the same time very spiritual. So then again, and I keep repeating this, it feels like she's only spiritual for the vibe of it. You know, it feels like she's like, oh, I'm reading tarot cards because that's what a Gothic protagonist should do, and I'm praying to the spirits because that's what a witchy Gothic protagonist should do. But then she doesn't personally seem to believe in them. And also, we don't know which spirit she's praying to, so everything is very loose. When she is like, I think 20 or 21, I can't really remember, she receives a letter to be a part of this institution about this college called Varenmore. And it's in a secluded place in the middle of nowhere in the top of a mountain, and our girl that is completely isolated manages to get her ass there. So she gets there. And when she gets there, she knows all the fashion trends. She can communicate very easily with all the youngsters, even if she was an isolated, non-internet kid. So no technology, schizophrenic mom, middle of the woods. She's still nice and trendy. Just so we're on the same page about like who this character, who Corvina is. When we go to this university, we learn a bunch of things. So the plot points are very scattered. So I'm going to try to give you guys a bunch of them at the same time, just to make this a little bit easier. So there were a bunch of serial murders, I believe 15 years in the past. So 50 years ago, there were a bunch of serial murders that were done apparently by the college people and to the city people. So when she gets into the city, the people say, oh, we are scared of this college because it's a haunted place. And then as Corvina gets to the school, she immediately meets a blonde girl and has this interaction where they become best friends just like that. So Corvina gets out of the cab and it's like the taxi driver is really scared, and then this girl shows up to her and says, they think we'll eat them or something. A wry, feminine voice from behind her made Corvina turn. A beautiful green-eyed girl with a shock of super short white hair stood grinning, a bright pink suitcase by her side. Damn, girl, your eyes are freaky, she whistled. I can't whistle. Drawing Corvina's gaze to a metal piercing through her eyebrow. And I don't mean that offensively. Sorry, hi, I'm Jade. Corvina liked her immediately. Corvina, she introduced herself, her voice sounding raspy in contrast to Jade's feminine notes. This is so if I meet someone and the first thing they do is talk over me and tell me that my eyes look freaky, and then I say, I like them. So, and this is also a common thing in the book. Everyone bullies Corvina and she likes them for bullying her. So weird. And then immediately, like this is same page immediately, Jade is like, don't you want to be my roommate? So she says, want a room with me? I'm a little nosy, but mostly I'm nice. And I can give you all the juicy info here. God, this girl was amazing. Corvina had never met anyone who treated her so Normally, she smiled. I think I'd like that. Damn, you got a killer smile, Corvina. Jade grinned. Can I call you Cor? You don't mind, right? Corvina shrugged. She didn't know how she felt about that. She'd always been Corvina to others. But this was a new chapter. Maybe she could be someone else too. Someone more carefree. Someone more badass. I don't mind. I'm not even joking. This is exactly what is written. It's so goofy. And then like two paragraphs later, the woman who's supposed to help Corvina in with the school, like, I don't know, she's the director, she's part of the board, something, she's responsible for the school. She just says, you two will be roommates. Which it feels so weird, because why do we have like them to be like, oh, I love you, we should be roommates, and then someone comes up that doesn't know about their interaction and says, you two should be roommates. Why do we have this twice? There's no reason for this to be here twice. But basically, this is what happens. The girl was named Kayling, the adult responsible. Kayling removed her hand and continued without a pause. Please call me Kayling. I'm the recruitment specialist here at Verenmore. I'm also your point of contact going forward. If you have any problems, my office is in the administration wing. She indicated a huge building she just exited. You can find me there from 9 to 3 every day. Jade, she gave the girl a severe look. Don't run off this time. You two are rooming together. Grab your luggage, let's walk and talk. This is so odd, because why do we have her meet a girl? And going back to it, mom's schizophrenic, raised alone in the woods, never had any friends, no access to technology. Corvina girl immediately likes the first person who tells her, damn girl, your eyes are freaky. What? And they are immediately best friends. And instead of having us deduct that they are best friends, the author says, hey, they are best friends, trust me. So I don't know why this is done twice, but a lot of things in this book are very obvious and repeated. So moving on, because we need to get the plot going. There's a lot that's still going to happen. I just really needed to get this first interaction because it's kind of important. Corvina and Jade become roommates. And then Corvina finds out a little later, but she finds out that Jade ran off from the school. So Jade is a first year, but she's the second time of her being a first year, because last year, according to her, her roommate, who was called Alyssa, jumped off of a tower. Okay, and this was very traumatizing, and because of that, Jade ran away. So Corvina says that she can sense that Jade wanted some comfort, like she wanted a hug or something, and then she was crying. But Corvina doesn't feel comfortable to give her that. She doesn't feel comfortable to comfort the girl who's supposed to be her best friend. And that's so odd, because she feels really comfortable about asking more information about the suicide and asking, oh, they didn't investigate anything or like that. She has no problem being nosy about Jade, but she doesn't want to be an actual friend, which would have been okay if it was played into the whole, oh, I grew up in the woods alone, but it isn't. It really isn't. And then, as Corvina is setting up, she lights a candle in the corner of the room and prays to the spirits. I don't even know what to say here. And then Jade asks her about, what she's doing. So the interaction goes a little bit like this. You believe in spirits? Her roommate asked her after a few minutes when she was done. Corvina shrugged. Why? Just curious. I believe more in energies, Corvina told her. Yeah, I can understand that. My foster father... ... Corvina let Jade talk about her foster family as she went back to the bed to clear away the items, only to sudden stop. So the girl is talking about her family and she turns around. That's so odd. What? And then this is the thing, instead of having us hear what Jade is actually speaking about her parents, we don't know, we just know that like she talked about her parents. So there is a lot of tell in this book. They go to college, they have school life, they have classes and all of that. And then we have a couple of side characters, which are boys. So basically it's mostly boys and Jade. There is another girl, but she's supposed to be, I guess, the bully blonde girl. So the way that it goes is that the boys, the side characters, they only exist to move the plot forward, because every couple days someone is saying, hey, can you believe that this and this is happening? So we also learn a few other things about the whole mystery surrounding Verranmore. We know that every 5 years they host something called a black ball, which is a reference to Poe's tale about the black ball of death. They have this black ball every 5 years on the school, and every time they host the ball, someone disappears. Someone, I guess, we don't even know if they die, they just disappear, gone. And then we learned that, and we learned that the school still hosts the balls, because even if in the years that they didn't host the balls, people disappeared anyway. And this is very interesting because we learned that there was, like, I talked about this, but 50 years in the past, there was a killing, which the students from the school killed people from the city, and that was during the Black Ball. And then every subsequent year, 5 years later, the people died. But then, this is the thing, because it's very convoluted, the killers were called the Slayers. The Slayers were the students 50 years in the past who killed people from the city. But then the students at Verranmore found the killers and lynched them, killing the killers. So we have two sets of supposedly spirits. We have the victims, which people believe still haunts the school, and we have the killers, who people believe also haunts the school. So basically that's the mystery. But there is someone who has a connection with that. This person is a professor called Vad Deverell, or Verranmore's White Devil. Vad was not only related to Alyssa, who fell off, threw herself out of the tower, Jade's former roommate, but Vad was also the only person who was staying with the girl who disappeared on the last Black Ball 5 years ago. So Vad has a connection to one disappearance and one death, but possibly two deaths. And Jade says to Corvina, you absolutely cannot interact with him. And the first thing that Corvina does is interact with him. So one of the nights she can't sleep, and she decides that she wants to explore this whole gorgeous, castle on her own. So instead of grabbing a phone or a lantern like a regular person, she grabs a candle that she made and walks around with her, lavender scented artisanal candle, going around, and she finds Vad on the top of the tower playing a piano, eyes closed. There's so many things wrong with that. The fact that he's at the girls' tower, the fact that he went there at 3 a.m. to play the piano, and I assume he has to work the next day because he's a professor, and the fact that he's playing with his eyes closed. So I actually made my boyfriend play with his eyes closed. I also play, but I felt like having a man do it would add. But then, why is that a bad thing? Why is playing the piano with your eyes closed a weird thing? So The only person that I know that talks about playing the piano with your eyes closed is Chopin, the famous piano musician. And he says that you should do it to practice, to acquaint yourself with the keys. If you're playing to have fun, or I don't know, because it makes you feel better, why would you do it with your eyes closed? Like, if you're not practicing, like, I'm assuming you already know the song you're playing, you already know your way around the piano, because I mean, Vad is supposed to be a musical prodigy. It feels like, because it is really uncomfortable to play with your eyes closed. I feel like anyone can tell you that. It feels like, why are you playing with your eyes closed if no one is watching you? Because it feels like a show-off thing. Like, oh, I'm so good, I play with my eyes. No one gets so transfixed by the music that they close their eyes while playing the piano. I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you could say that, oh, he forgot his posture. That's so common. Like, sometimes you're playing and the music is like, you're so focused that you lose your posture, so you're hunched over, or maybe you're going a little back or something like that. But closing your eyes is uncomfortable and doesn't really make any sense, and it feels like this was written by someone who doesn't play the piano, which is a job, which is mean of me, but it does feel like it. So anyway, Val and Corvina have the smallest back and forth ever, and they frick. Like, I'm not even joking. They just frick a lot. And instead of even showing us them, the author just says, oh, they fricked. So let me read this to you guys. They a lot, with an insatiable need that seemed to be growing wilder and an intense tenderness that seemed to be blossoming deeper. They talked a lot, too, after catching their breath in bed, or in the tub looking up at the castle, or in the woods going for a walk. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. Sometimes he played his music, banishing his demons, and she read her romances, acknowledging her angels. Playing his music, banishing his demons, and reading her romances, acknowledging her angels doesn't make sense. And I know, baby girl, that it's very cute to make parallels between angels and devils, but they need to make sense. Anyway, this is the thing. It's really hard to identify with Corvina and Vad because they have almost no interaction. Like, Vad talks like a Gen Z thick boy.
His breathing grew ragged as his fingers made contact with her wetness.
No panties?
Corvina shivered. I don't like underwear. I skip them sometimes.
You've ruined me with that knowledge. Not happy with it.
It's perfect.
You know, that's what he sounds like. And they don't talk. They have no interaction. They have no banter. This was supposed to be a romance. He was supposed to be a college professor. I was expecting nice and cute, you know, love declarations, but we have...
Would a stranger know the way those your tits bounce when your nipple is flicked?
Why the singular nipple? Oh, the singular nipple
Those-
gets me.
Those your when your nipple is flicked. Those your tits bounce as well.
See, is that how a college professor talks? Is that how a romantic gothic college professor talks? So, Corvina starts dating Vad, and one of the things that happens is that she starts seeing spirits. So she will be, she's taking a shower one of the days, and she will see a woman, like a reflection of her with black eyes, and it cracks the mirror. And I think she's with Vad in the tower, and then in another reflection she sees the same spirit, and she keeps hearing a female voice saying, like, you need to find me, like, you need to save me. Something just fell, and that was very spooky. But basically, she keeps seeing and hearing that female voice that basically leads her into finding out that there are corpses in the lake. So I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if I'm someone that's hearing voices that I think, oh, maybe those voices are from spirits, and the voices end up being right, I would assume that that means that those spirits are real. But that's not what happens, because Corvina is convinced that it's all a coincidence and that she's just schizophrenic, which I feel like is so odd in this book, because we have over and over confirmations of things that are not, that are very obvious that there are spirits in this book, but Corvina keeps going back on them and saying, oh, maybe that's not the case, maybe it's because I'm schizophrenic. So as her relationship with Vad progresses, Vad tells her his secrets, and his secret is that the whole Slayer thing about the students that were killing the villagers, one of them was his grandfather, and he didn't die. The reason he didn't die is because he was the one that got the other students together to kill the Slayers. So his grandfather was part of the original Slayers, which makes Vad the grandson of the killer, you know. And not only that, Vad is also the heir of Varanmore. So we got upgraded from just like teacher professor romance to billionaire romance, because he owns the whole mountain, so everything is his, but he keeps it a secret. And the reason he keeps it a secret is because he's investigating whatever is that's wrong with Varanmore. And then Corvina tells him in return that her mother is schizophrenic, and not only that, but her father was schizophrenic, which bumps her chances of being someone that's schizophrenic to a lot. And because of that, they keep calling each other my devil and my madness. I do feel like my madness is a little weird on Corvina, but my devil makes sense because Vad admits that his grandfather died of weird circumstances, and he doesn't say it, but he implies that he's the one that killed his grandfather. Okay. Basically, then the end of the plot gets a little more convoluted, and I'm not gonna lie, interesting. It was interesting because I was curious to see what was going on. So, one of Corvina's friends, like one of the guys that bullied her, that called her purple because of her purple eyes, dies. He throws himself off a tower. When he does so, Corvina, hears his voice inside her head saying, tell my brother about this. And this is very interesting because Corvina didn't know if he had a brother, which he does, which again is confirmation that Corvina is not schizophrenic, but someone that's hearing the spirits. Because of that, this character Troy's brother actually comes. His name is Ajax. Really funny, Troy Ajax, keeping it, you know, Iliad theme. And then Ajax comes and he's investigating the whole thing, the whole situation, the whole killers, and that's where Corvina listens to the voice of the spirits again, and she realizes that the bodies are buried in the lake, and she also finds another body during the Black Ball. So she finds a body actually, and then during the Black Ball she discovers whose body it is. So basically, when the Black Ball comes, and also the Black Ball is a sex thing, because of course it is, so basically everyone has an orgy during the Black Ball, which is really odd for so many reasons. And of course it's a masquerade ball, so they're all wearing masks during an orgy. And then Vad says the most romantic thing, where he goes, oh, you know what, me and Ajax, you know, the brother of your best friend who died, we share the same girl this night. And she disappeared, of course. So that's not romantic. Vad, this is not cool. You can't be with your current girlfriend and talk about things you did with your best friend's deceased girlfriend. What? Anyway, Corvina, then like two girls disappear, so Corvina goes to find them. One of them, of course, is Jade's Corvina best friends, and the other girl is called, I believe, Caitlin, K, something with K, I don't remember. K girl is she finds at the lake, and then she cannot find Jade. So as Vad and Corvina are looking for Jade, Corvina ends up getting hit in the head and she blacks out. When Corvina wakes up, she's at the top of the tower where the suicides have been occurring, and she cannot move. She's like completely paralyzed. Then we see the evil person behind everything talking to Corvina about the crimes. Who is the evil person? Who's the mastermind behind all of this? Jade. So we find out that Jade, her roommate, was not the real Jade. Jade was actually dead. So basically, the person who I don't think we even know the name, but I'm gonna call her Jade. Jade was also a granddaughter to one of the original Slayer girls. So the Slayer girl, she made everyone think she was dead, but she was actually already pregnant with Jade, with Jade's mother actually. So then she escapes and runs away. Basically, the reason why the slayers, the killers, could get people from town is because in Verrenmoor there's a tree that if you use basically the leaves of the tree, you can create a powder that makes people obey you. So they were using that to manipulate people. So there is a drug reason for all of this. So it's not a supernatural reasoning, it's a drug reasoning. Then Jade killed the original Jade that was going to Verrenmoor, took her place and enlisted in the school because she thought that like basically Verrenmoor also belonged to her because of her grandmother, and she wanted to find Vad and marry him and have his babies, even though they are technically cousins, I don't know, what are they? I think they're cousins. I think they're first cousins. For some reason, when I read this, I thought they were stepbrothers, but they're not stepbrothers. They are, right? No, they're cousins. They're cousins. Anyway, they're first cousins, and she wants to be with him, and she thinks because they have like the genes of the killers, they would be amazing together. And then the resolution to that is that Corvina, for some reason, fights back the drug, and Vad shows up and literally throws Jade off the tower, and she dies. And then it's super weird because in the moment where he does that, he basically tries to trick Jade. And when he does that, he says, "Oh, I don't want you, Corvina. Oh, I want you, Jade. Oh, you are so smart. I totally want to be with a serial killer." And then Corvina's like, "Oh, so he doesn't love me. So he's tricking me all this time." So odd. They do meet Corvina's mother, and Corvina's mother is like, she's in a very advanced dementia state, so she doesn't understand anything. And then they drop out of college, and then this is what happens. Let me read it to you guys. After the tower incident, Corvina had decided to drop her degree and instead spend her time at the institute recovering, reading, and studying what she liked without any academic curriculum. After moving out, she had opened a small business making candles, crafting unique jewelry, and doing online tarot readings. Vad had been extremely supportive of that, telling her to do what brought her peace and pleasure as he joined as an associate professor at the local university, his passion always teaching. So basically Corvina becomes an Etsy witch, which is, I mean, amazing, good for her if you want to become an Etsy witch, but that's such a convoluted plot to end up just being an Etsy witch. Like, they're not gonna live at the castle? Whatever. Anyway, this is basically the plot, and the plot is so confusing. I want now to talk about some specific characters that I didn't like. So now I think I've talked enough about like Corvina and the plot of the book and why everything was so confusing and the grammar mistakes, the lack of commas. I wanted now to talk about something that made the book unbearable to read. That's Vad. Vad made this book unbearable to read. So Vad is supposed to be a college professor. He's supposed to be interesting. He's supposed to be charismatic. He's not. He's evil. He bullies Corvina all the time. He's definitely like, and he sounds dumb. Like, I'm not even joking. When you read the book and you read about Vad, he sounds dumb. Like, he doesn't sound smart at all. I was expecting him to talk about books, to talk about literature, because that's supposed to be their shared passion. They don't. They have no meaningful conversation whatsoever. And when they do, it's in insane situations, like on top of a piano while he starts. So I wanted to do like some parts of the book that I felt like of Vad, that I felt like were specifically unhinged. So I'm making my boyfriend read them for your entertainment. He is not a professor, but he does enjoy reading, and he has a very nice accent. So I think he's gonna bring the Vad experience to this scenario.
What is my last name?
Devereaux, you're Vad Devereaux.
Vad Deverell. Vad Deverell. Okay.
And I'm Corvina Klin.
You want to know who I am?
He punched his hips harshly against her.
I am your madness.
It sounds like he's killing her. He caressed the side of her face with the back of his fingers, tilting his head.
And if I am, does that make you loathe me? Will that keep your pussy dry?
I love
I'm
that.
cringing so badly.
When I posted this one, someone said, "Is keeping mine dry?"
It's definitely keeping every reader's dry. I always have a hard time with this one because I don't really understand what it means.
It's very goofy.
This will last until the day roses on my grave stop sharing roots with the roses on yours.
He declared.
I will have you even in death, little witch. I am your beast. I am your madness. And you're my afterlife.
This is very goofy because, like, what do you mean? She's your
Afterlife and death.
And death.
You have her in death and in afterlife, yeah.
Like, you could say until we die and then in my afterlife, but she says in death and in my afterlife.
And in the afterlife. In that brief moment where you just lose life and then you're going to the afterlife. Yeah.
Another thing on this book that felt like it had no meaning and was very odd was the supernatural element. So throughout the book, we have many supernatural occurrences, and the book keeps playing this game of is it not? Is it supernatural? Is there something like, are there spirits? And the thing that I think this book does wrong is that instead of making us try to figure that out by ourselves, the book gives us a bunch, and I mean it, a bunch of supernatural elements, and then it goes, but maybe those are not it. Like, there's even a chapter where it is narrated by an unidentified entity that says, oh, Corvina knows too much, and then I guess later we're supposed to believe that this is Jade, like this is a person, but there are clearly confirmations in the book that there are supernatural elements, and the book tries to pretend that it's we don't know. We know. It's very obvious that it is. Like, so it becomes a plot hole at some point. Like, at some point, it's not charming anymore. At some point, it's a plot hole. So I feel like the supernatural aspects of this book were a plot hole because the book fails to give us any explanation for them, but also tries to tell us that, like, oh, we can't know if maybe it was not supernatural. So it feels like it was poorly done. It feels like a lot of the things that could be more developed were not developed just for the sake of, oh no, we don't know. It's just a supernatural thingy. I wanted to finish this by telling you guys my actual opinion of Gothikana, I was very pissed reading it. I felt like a lot of things were objectively really bad and really wrong overall. But I also feel like the book itself was not uninteresting because I couldn't put it down as much as it was objectively bad in most aspects of it. I couldn't put it down, and I finished it, and I don't really finish like books like this. But I feel like this book wasn't necessarily bad as much as it was unpolished and unedited. This book needed an editor desperately. It just needed someone to get away some of the tropes because the book is very trope heavy and it relies so much on specific tropes. It just needed a little more polish to make sense. So I feel like if Runix developed this book a little bit more, if she had or they had like a better editor, someone to go through it, then I feel like it would work out nicely. I feel like it doesn't because a lot of the things are very convoluted and they got lost in the middle of the plot. So I think this book is not necessarily, because I've seen books that are very nicely edited and are not good. And I do found that this book was interesting as much as it was complicated. So I'm gonna give this book 2 out of 5 crows. The plot was interesting as much as I hated Vad and Corvina. Vad and Corvina are awful. They could both. I don't like them. They are really bad. But the book itself, the plot wasn't the worst. So I don't know. Should you read it? No, you should not read it. You will get stressed. But I read it for you, so you don't have to. Anyways, thank you so much guys for watching this video. If you came this far, please like and subscribe, I guess. It helps. I'm putting myself through so much suffering reading those. I feel like I deserve a little bit of love for this because I'm pretty sure it is entertaining to see me crash out over Gothikana. And I also know that some people actually read it, so I would like to know, like, what is your opinion if you read this book, if you're one of the few warriors that managed to suffer through it. I want to know what you thought about it. Okay, this is it guys. I know it's been a while. I'm gonna try to be more consistent. One of the nice things was that reading Gothikana, I was interested in reading Dracula, which was something that I've been putting off for a long time, and I'm in love with Dracula. Dracula has been an amazing experience. I don't think I will make a video essay about Dracula because I feel like I'm too late to the party and not knowledgeable enough to make it fun. Maybe if I did a Gothikana Dracula comparison, no. But I will find something, a dumpster fire of a book to read next, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.
I am bad, Deborah. Oh god, I don't want to do this next one.